Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of SEO Fight Club. I'm just saying hello in YouTube chat and reminding people to ask questions and suggest topics. It'll probably be a shorter show today. I guess it depends on how many questions we get. A lot of people are traveling for SEO spring training, which is kind of shaping up to be the conference of the year. So it's going to be pretty exciting. Clint, when do you travel?
All right, I had to unmute. I believe Thursday. My son's flying in from Seattle, and instead of flying straight to Phoenix, he chose to fly here so he could drive up with me. So that's awesome.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah, Kyle's paying for it. He works for Kyle, so Kyle's paying for his ticket.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm arriving on Thursday too. I know some people are traveling today to make use of the networking golf event.
Yeah, they got that Thursday morning. I know there's a couple people that are there now that are actually there for photography, and had they'd not been flying here, I probably would be up there with them because they're going to Sedona and take pictures, sunrise, sunset, and all that stuff. So
Yeah, that's pretty country out there. A lot of orange.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so today I was thinking maybe kind of eyeball the SERPs in real time, see what kind of stands out, if anything looks new or different. So let me go ahead and share a window. Let's see, I believe that's the one. And let me know if you can see it, Clint.
Yep.
All right, so I'm looking at one of our commonly used calibration keywords. I don't have any websites in this keyword, so if you're looking to inflict pain on me, I am not here. Anything I point out here is just a random stranger. So, all right, so looking at this, there was a period of time where the number of search results were missing for people. That appears to be back again. Let's see.
There was the difference in counts too. Yeah, I think you got what, 7 billion up there or something.
7 million.
I got 5,950,000.
Yeah, and for some reason, whatever data center you roll, the estimates can be different for. So if you roll a different, I guess, instance of their application than I do, the data can be out of sync between the two.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is that directories appear to be back on top again. So Justia, Yelp, displaced Heart11 and Los Angeles DUI attorney. So in past months, the smaller businesses were beating the directories. The directories appear on top again. Normally, when we see that happen, it usually means that the weighting in the algorithm is favoring entities and entity density. So that might be something to test or look into. Because these directories, I mean, they're largely just packed with relevant entities. So they got the names of law firms and the addresses, and geo signals for Los Angeles, and they just have tons and tons and tons of it. And so, yeah, when these guys rise to the top, I start thinking entities. What do you think when that happens?
nothing like the user value of having a search engine present a whole bunch of other search engines to find a answer. I mean,
Yeah.
I think when they switched, like you said, the local sites were kind of popping in there a whole lot more. And then they switched the desktop to the mobile view for that infinite scroll. It's not infinite, but that's what we call it. Now the pain of people moving to page 2 isn't so bad. So that's why those directories got pushed back up again.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed in recent weeks was Google was playing with the num equals and start parameter. And there was a time where rank trackers and other tools were breaking because Google would only return the lazy result set, which was like 13 results, unless you had the proper trick in order to get it to honor your num equals 100 parameter. That seems to be largely fixed now, but I suspect a lot of people complaining in the past 3 weeks or so have been like misfires of that, where nothing actually changed, but your tools broke because Google changed how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like everything's back in working order today. Let's see. So another thing, this year that's kind of interesting to me was that the variations, the bolded terms, have kind of simplified in many regards. So there's it seems more straightforward. It seems more targeted to partial match, exact match, and very closely related synonyms. In the past, there used to be more drift in it, where you would get, various entities like the names of prominent DUI lawyers. You would see other things like, you'd get other compound words that contain a substring match. But now it seems like they cleaned that up a bit. And I'm looking for an example of DWI. I used to see it. Let me go back to the top. I used to see it highlighting DWI, and I want to see that again.
Command F.
Yeah, do a find. All right, so there it is, but it's not highlighted in those zones. I guess they highlighted it here. So if we look at this, how'd they bold it? Yeah, they did bold it discreetly. Because they could have just wrapped the EM tags around the whole block, but they didn't. They did the individual words.
There's a lesson there too, if you guys are wondering strong versus bold versus emphasis, which is what Google's using there. I mean, they're showing that that's an emphasis related to that search. So if you're going to use one of the three, it would be a good idea to use that versus the others if you can.
So here's an interesting presentation. They chose a table or a list of the attorneys as the summary, the relevant summary text. So Google thought this was the most relevant thing to show for this page. So that's,
I think that's, I don't know why Google went to this model. You know what I mean? It's like that does zero help for me. It doesn't tell me what's on the page. It doesn't tell me if it's helps me figure out if it's what I'm looking for. It's just a list of names. It's dumb. I wish they would turn that off.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it tells you there's a list of attorneys here. Yeah, and I'm looking for the 5-star 1 vote shenanigans. Google was letting that through earlier this year, so looking to see if it's there. Here we go. 5 stars, 1 vote. Still doable. There you go, people. Get your stars. There's a method. Phone numbers and summary. So I wonder how effective that is for CRO, but it seems to be more common as of late, and Google doesn't discourage it. So you got multiple in a row.
And is Google, are they doing that or is Google doing that? I'm pretty sure. I want to say that's Google doing it.
Well, that's a good question. So we could go to fix a ticket here and view source. And let's see, there's the title, meta description does not have it. Oh, they have it at the end, but it's a weird incarnation. So it looks like Google is ignoring their meta description and choosing to show that instead.
Where are they getting it from?
That's a good question. Let me go here. Let's look for in all caps, we fight traffic tickets.
Footer.
Where is it? Oh, there. Yeah, I guess it is a mega footer.
Does make no damn sense.
It's the most helpful information on the page. What do? We fight traffic tickets. Call us today. Phone number. I mean, there's an argument that it's a misfire of helpful content.
I don't know why they had to put that in place. Why couldn't they just use the meta description that people put on their websites? It's their website. That's how they want to represent their website. So why would the need to change it?
I think what ran off the rails was CRO. People got into such heavy plays on winning the click aggressively that the meta description stopped being a relevant descriptor of what the page had.
Well, that's not CRO's fault. I think that's kind of the talking head gurus. Meta description doesn't matter in for SEO. Just do CRO, and then the downside of that turned into what you just said. Everyone was using it for CRO, not SEO. And then they're getting better clicks than their ads were. So, oh, let's turn on machine learning because it's awesome. Yeah, right. That's why you turn it on.
So this is interesting. It's a Facebook page that's doing the 1 5-star vote. Seems like there's a trick in there too. Now, the thing that I thought was really weird is at the bottom of all this. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this stuff. See these CFDs? Oh, yeah, .it network. CFDs. So these .cfds are like a new network on the scene. So somebody's competing with the .it network now. CFD, CFD, CFD. So yeah, Google has not, and this is a large number of this crap. Like this is a lot of, taking entries out of the primary index. And this is one keyword where this is happening. And so if this is happening large scale on lots of keywords, that's a sizable piece of the primary index being used for spam networks, CFD, CFD, CFD. So it's like Google got worse on its ability to keep spam out of the primary index. They regressed to a more spammy state. CFD. And it looks like the spammers are kind of winning that arms race on them. All right, so let's change keywords, go a different way. All right, so one of my favorites has an ad. That's a new development. And they're number 2. They were number 3, so they went up. I wonder if they retune. So the thing to keep in mind about this page, as I zoom out here, I guess it kind of stays the same regardless of zoom. That's cool. But all this page is images. There's a little bit of text at the bottom, but visually it's all images. All right. And then you view page source, we put on the wrap, search for the game, and they have 2,600 exact matches. So here's a page that is visually all images, but they managed to use their exact match 2,600 times. So if you're an SEO going, it's spammy to use my keyword 50 times, well, here you go. I guess reconcile your cognitive dissonance, So that still works well. And seeing that is a strong indicator that lorem ipsum tune pages still work. And I checked those this morning and they still rank number 1. Addicting games used to be number 1. They used to have about 3,000 matches. And the main thing they did is they felt worried about it. And so they reduced it down to 758 and they got rewarded for it. They're number 4 now. So go figure. The one that went to 3K is the new number 1, and the one that went from 3K to 750 is the new number 4.
Still cracks me up that AARP is in that listing.
They've been in there a long time. I've talked to the SEO from that years ago. I don't know if they still have the same SEO or not, but I've actually talked with them about SEO. This is interesting. So I like seeing examples where people push the limits of how many times they use a keyword in the summary, as well as in the title, because there's a precedent. There was a time where 4 mentions in a title was fine, but 5 mentions was a one-way ticket out of the top 100. So even though, it doesn't look like Google works that way now, it's still interesting to make a note of it when you see things in there that kind of tell you what you can get away with, that you make a note of it going, oh, okay, so that seems to be okay. Like here's another one. And if we go back to the top, so games, you got 3 there. Games, got 3. Games, 2 on the AARP. This one's interesting, games, puzzles. And there's more here. So keep in mind that most people think, oh, never violate, the ellipsis length. No, violate the ellipsis length. They can get away with stuff that's just now cloaked. So we call this ellipsis situational cloaking, because you could actually go on for another 100,000 exact matches. We've tested it, it works. But this is situational cloaking. So for all practical purposes, no human being will see any of the text that's beyond the ellipsis. So it's effectively cloaked and it's in the hottest zone on the page. Clint was giving me the shut up, Ted. All right. I guess I'm not seeing a whole lot more than that. Is there anything you'd want to look at? I guess let me check for .it network at the bottom of this one. I thought I saw an oddball. Nope, guess not. Yeah, not seeing a lot of spam in this keyword. So it may change from keyword to keyword now. But oh well. All right, let's go do some questions. That's enough field observations. All right, so question-wise, what do we have here? Hey, I think I heard you talk about this before, but do you confirm even a non-indexed backlink, meaning a non-indexed page, is taken into account? That doesn't make any sense. Like Google would have to have the link in their link graph. And there's a lot of nebulous definition around this hot word index. So if a link is in the link graph, because it's in a Google system, is that arguably indexed? Now, there's the definition that I use is that to be indexed, your URL has to rank for a keyword. So the awareness isn't enough by my definition. You need that pairing of a URL and a keyword. And so if you do not appear for a keyword, you still can be in the link graph and boost a page. So by my definition, you can be not indexed, but still boost, be it in that link graph. But by other people's definitions, if you're in the link graph, you're indexed. So it's word games at that point. So you gotta be more specific about what you exactly mean, because everybody uses a different set of assumptions and definitions. What do you think, Clint?
I'm not doing it today.
Clint hates this topic because, yeah, he just hates it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. What standard WordPress HTML sitemap is indexing for hundreds of keywords? The thing about ranking for hundreds and thousands of keywords is people, they kind of tell you a soft lie in how they do it. They say, oh, I'm tuning my page for hundreds of keywords because I'm a powerful SEO and I can tune a single page for hundreds of keywords. What they're actually doing is they're ranking the page for one keyword well, one keyword best. And that's kind of the cost of entry to play this game, is you have to rank for one thing. All right. And depending upon what that one thing is you rank for, you can then just mention other very closely related things for that keyword and pick up the broad matches for all those other terms. Now, you won't rank well for all of those things, but you'll see lots of this loose, sparse, organic traffic from search for a large number of keywords. And so if you rank for hummingbird feeders, you will typically be able to play this game and pick up glass hummingbird feeders, metal hummingbird feeders, red hummingbird feeders, blue hummingbird feeders, hummingbird feeder food. What you'll never see is somebody saying, oh, I ranked a page for electrician and baseball and ice cream and kitchen remodels all on the same page, and I ranked for thousands of those keywords. That's not what they're doing. And so the key to doing that hundreds of keywords is still to do one keyword per page well. And then in phase 2, you take all the very closely related terms, just mention them on the page. What do you think, Clint?
I think what he's asking specifically, though, is he has an HTML sitemap and that it's ranking for keywords that he has other pages he's trying to rank for. So it's essentially cannibalizing his other rankings. And the way that would, two ways that it happen. One, it's a site-wide link across your entire website to your HTML sitemap, which is kind of standard. And then 2, you have really good titles. And so you're covering, and 3, that it might have backlinks on its own. So it's getting backlink power from the entire site. It's got really good titles, and then maybe it's got backlinks on its own. So it's causing your issues. In my mind, you don't want to no index it. I mean, you could. It won't hurt anything if you no index it. But it's probably a better indication. You need better internal linking and better backlinks to the primary content you're trying to rank.
Yeah, I totally misread that question. My apologies.
That was a good start, Ted. Everyone appreciated it.
Yeah, Clint's totally right on that. One thought that comes to mind to me, if you're looking for experimental ways to fix that, break it into 4 sitemaps. And then each of those will hopefully be, less optimal for ranking. Let's see. Regarding last week's topic, do you think the core update is done by now? How do you check? Well, historically, the way we call the end date is when you get that return to baseline. So in that episode, I showed you some charts of core updates in about the middle of the episode. And what you'll see those charts were the weather services, all the various, SEO volatility weather services. I normalized them and plotted them on the same graph. And when they go chaotic, and then they all kind of swoop back into a baseline. And so you look for that swoop back into the baseline, and that's where we kind of call the end of the core update. But I'm not really watching it, because we've also known for years that if you fix your factor deficits, you kind of just ride through these updates without much shakeup. And so most of us who have been doing that, we don't really notice these updates. So it's like outlier cases, like a website here, a website there, but it's never everything for us. And so, yeah, I would recommend getting measurement data. Kind of the best thing you can do if you are hit by it is figure out how you're different from what is working right now and fix those differences. That's usually a really good step one. What do you think, Clint?
Let's see. There's a lot of different opinions on when and where a core update starts and when it finishes, right? In particular, when it finishes and how you measure it. And it is my opinion that a core update is actually, all the updates are released pretty quickly to all the data centers. And then it's just got to process, right? So and then those detectors that you cite, they all essentially are looking at ranking and then seeing the volatility of the ranking. So I think your tool is probably a better measure of how a core update is affecting your niche. And what I mean by that is you take SEO volatility tool and you have 10, 15, 20, you could probably do 100 if you had an automator running, and then run those reports and then watch the volatility in your niche to see how your keywords, your primary keywords, if they're getting processed or not. And if that continues to move around, then you know that the update is still hasn't hit your keyword set, your market yet. And then after that, and you stop seeing that bounce, then I think you can be pretty assured that the update is over for you, at least in regards to your data center processing stuff. That's all tinfoil hat theory, though. So,
well, I think there's some validity to that. Like in the volatility tool, we see sites being like rescored and then recovering, and it typically looks like a number one site, and then it's a number one / number 75 site for a while where it's ping ponging. Then it's a number 75 100% of the time. Then it's like a number 75 / a number 2, and then it's a number 2. And so it's like Google takes you out of search and they reprocess what you have, and then they say, okay, you're a number 2 now, and put you back. And that whole process can take a week or two. But we kind of see it happen to some sites during these core updates and not all sites. So it's kind of like there's a capability where Google can say, hey, all websites, touching upon this aspect of what we do need to be rescored. So go find those websites and rescore them. So it's not necessarily an everything every time type of deal, but it can be like shotgun style for, I guess, sites matching some sort of criteria on their end. It would be interesting from a macroscopic level to kind of see, are there patterns in the types of sites that get hit by it, or don't recover or do recover, but we kind of don't have visibility at that level. We need some sort of sharing tool with the entire SEO community to share that kind of data, to opt into a program. So if you're looking to invent something cool and next level, invent that piece. Let's see. Did you spot anything more interesting regarding the latest core update? Not yet, but we'll see. It's still early. My page rank is between 1 and 5 on my different keywords for local business. No backlinks since December. Should I continue with backlinks and or backlinks to my tier 1? I mean, if you kind of went up to that point and stayed at that point, normally what you want to look at is what else you're neglecting, because there's probably some on-page stuff you're neglecting. There's probably some business profile stuff you're neglecting. I would diversify ranking signals before doubling down on one you've already used to good effect. The algorithm is not fond of you doing the same thing over and over again to increase your ranking. You got to kind of do more than that. What do you think, Clint?
It's funny to hear you say that, because we're talking about link decay. So if you don't build any backlinks for months, then you get link decay. And you saw that with your own site. You built just backlinks with press releases and yeah, look how awesome I am. And then they all fell off and now you're not so awesome anymore. So I think if you're ranking in 1 to 5, yes, you got to consider all that other stuff that Ted talked about. You might have probably already did it, I'm assuming, because you wouldn't be in 1 to 5. But remember that there are other SEOs out there who want to be 1 to 5 too, and so they're going to build backlinks. So you should continue to do it, or build links to your tier 1s, but you don't have to go at the same pace that you did to get to 1 to 5, because you're already there. And in theory, you're getting some links naturally by being there. And then you don't want to trigger, like Ted said, by sending 10 links consistently every month. Eventually, you're just going to go to the point of no return where it doesn't matter. And maybe Google punishes you, maybe Google doesn't, but it seems like a waste of money at that point.
Yeah, and I'm not anti-link building by any means. I just think that it can't be the only trick you use. So you need to have well-rounded SEO, and you need to think about the things you've been neglecting and stop neglecting those. And for the record, it wasn't I built some backlinks and look how awesome I am. The brag was look how little it took and how fast it happened. That was the part. Like, we always knew it was weak. I call it minimum viable SEO, which by definition is weak SEO. It's not stable, it's not strong, it's not best, it's not maximum, it's minimum. Minimum equals weak, but it tells you about the extremes, and that's a place where we don't know a lot. We know a lot about spending too much on SEO. There's lots of us who can get to the top by over investing. But there's not a lot of us who can get to the top by under investing. And so that's an interesting place. But yeah, it does yield weak rankings. So minimum viable SEO, well, minimum and viable are opposing forces. They contradict each other. All right, page, let's see. All right, so me, my brother, and some friends have 150 niche sites altogether. Since the update in March, almost all Amazon affiliate websites crashed. This must be an affiliate update. I mean, it's probably not. I mean, it's possible, but unlikely.
Do a test for me there, Fly. it's because you're asking us to guess, but do a test. Turn all of your Amazon affiliate links and add rel sponsor to them, and then get your sites recrawled. And then come back and let us know how that went.
All right, sounds like Clint has seen this one before. I recommend you do it because Clint is rarely wrong when he calls a shot like that. Let's see. I want to automatically build external links to my money site. Is it a good idea to put my money website's RSS feed on my tier 1 website? I'm a little nervous about you syndicating your content because I've seen that blow up in people's faces. So it really depends if you're syndicating summaries or whole articles, in my opinion. What do you think, Clint?
It's IFTT networks, semantic mastery stuff. I prefer my RSS feed to have an excerpt, not the exact content, because even if you're syndicating to your ring, your ring around you, it doesn't stop someone else from doing the same thing and creating a billion sites with your content. So I prefer to use excerpts, and then I also prefer to have them built in such a way that they'll kind of build links to themselves too, because 0 + 0 = 0. And that was always my biggest issue with the semantic mastery concept of IFTTT rings, is not being able to build links to those. So they answered that by building tiers. So essentially you would build your tier 1 ring, and then you'd build 3 tiers to that tier 1 ring, and then your stuff would get syndicated all the way down to the third tiers, kind of in that fashion. So another reason to use the excerpts, but you got to have a plan to make that tier 1 valuable. But it still works. I mean, those guys are still, Bradley is still using those as far as I know.
All right. This one's interesting. How do you solve the context microsemantics problem with a correlation tool like Cora, like an apple pie recipe mentioning add 1 tablespoon of cinnamon to the bowl versus add 1 bowl of cinnamon with a tablespoon? My answer to that is I don't see strong evidence that that's how Google is reading all pages. And so as evidence of that, we have examples I showed earlier, like the Crazy Games website was not differentiating between contexts like that, and they had risen to number 2 for the keyword games. And the rhinoplasty Plano style pages obviously don't care about the semantics. Now there is the possibility that this type of semantic understanding could impact a ranking score, but there's not a strong amount of evidence to indicate that it is a dominant force in SEO. So while it could be beneficial, I think you'd have to have some really hardcore tests to prove that. I think it's an even greater leap to assume that it's a strong fundamental force in SEO at this time. I think largely the way it works right now is there is strong evidence that entity density and diversity of entities that are topically relevant, not the off-topic ones, those can hurt you, but all the on-topic ones can help you. So it's that classic dilemma of distinguishing between a page that mentions apple pie versus a page that's about apple pie. And a page that mentions apple pie might be a song or a book or a movie, but a page about apple pie will talk about oven mitts, pie pans, cook time, temperature, cinnamon crust, and so on. What do you think, Clint? You're studying this.
Yeah, I think you're you're right when you say it's a pain in the ass to test, because it's a pain in the ass to test. I think in his example, you would have to have n-gram phrases all messed up in order to disambiguate the topic. In that example, just having that one instance of add 1 bowl of cinnamon with a tablespoon wouldn't mess up the topic. Google would, the algorithm essentially would figure it out, because your other n-grams, your other 2, 3, 4 word phrase words containing those entities and containing your keywords would overwhelm that one off thing. Like, I don't know, you just typed it wrong or whatever, right? So in that situation, I don't think it would be a problem. Now, is there a correlation tool that finds the n-grams that people are using? And the word is no. We're trying to do it with Spacey, and we're getting a little close with it, but at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to be able to pull it off, just because of the word combinations and the trash that you get. Like, you can look at anything can look at a piece of content and kind of figure out those phrases, and then you got to go through that phrase list and pull out the ones that are actually relevant. So I would probably recommend it if you want to test semantics. And there's 2 episodes ago that I talked about it in SEO This Week, but if you flip it over and look at it from the different perspective, you're writing an apple pie recipe. 2, 3, and 4 phrase words will have impact to guide what that is about. So write your article, use a tool, Spacey, you can try it, like a text, LSI words that do phrases, LSI tools that create phrases and then you can pick those out and inject them into your content, or highlight them a little bit better, make sure that each 2, 3, or 4 phrase word contains entities, that kind of stuff, to get close to validating semantics. The test that I'm going to set up is actually just writing lines of 2, 3, and 4 word phrases about a topic and just see if it ranks. And it's going to be pure straight ass gibberish, but Google can't read anyway, and just see if it ranks. And then I will be a little bit closer to validating semantics in the machine learning. It makes total sense in my brain of why that would be something that they would use. But like Ted said, we just can't say definitively. Is it more? Is it good rankings? Is it bad rankings? I don't know if the system that I have when I optimize content. I got a rehab site making 60,000 visitors a month after the update. So clearly Google's figured something out, and in my system, I've expanded it since I did my content optimization video. But at the end of the day, is LSI and Yake and entities inside every sentence and inside every paragraph. And I think naturally, because of how we're writing those, we're creating 2, 3, and 4 word phrases that are straight on point to the topic of the page. And that's why we're getting rewarded for it. So it all makes sense. We just got to prove it.
And there are n-gram features in Cora. So if you look at the cluster report and the Yake report, I believe they go out to 5 grams.
Yeah, perfect. And with semantics, you don't even have to get to 5. 5 is like handy, but at the end, if you read the books on semantics, almost damn near every book that I've gotten so far stops at 4. So, and if you're thinking about processing costs, what I'll stop at 4. It just makes sense. So yeah, so 5 is extra credit.
I didn't stop at 4 because there were actual 5 word keywords that were worth it. And couldn't exclude the exact match on those.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Do you have any ideas how we could extract context and meaning from the text corpus? Well, I mean, use the large language models, right? You can say summarize the following text. You could say what questions might a customer ask that were not answered by the following text. There are all these prompts you can do that are diagnostically relevant to what your content has and is lacking.
In that vein, just because you were shooting out ideas, I would give ChatGPT or GPT-4 the article and then say, right, using the article above, make a list of 4-word phrases exactly about keyword. And then see what that tool gets you, because it's using n-grams as well to create that stuff. I'm assuming. I'm not an AI expert by any means, but I would think that that's kind of one of the building blocks of how it's building it out. That works in Spacey. I wish I'm an idiot for not thinking that out. We could have done that with ChatGPT already in Python, but see if that works for you.
All right, let's see. If I make a PDF with a backlink to my website, publish the same PDF in 50 different domains and index them, will those count? Yes. All Google is doing with other document formats is they have a document transformer that takes format A and converts it to HTML, and then they continue as normal from there. And so whether it's a spreadsheet or a Word doc or an RTF file, they all have converters into HTML, and then they all get treated the same after conversion. The thing we don't know about their converters is how they convert things into HTML specifically, like what becomes a heading and what becomes just formatted font. So a lot of that is hidden from us because we can't see the post conversion HTML that gets produced. But you can kind of see if Google treats things in a similar way. But just note that, yeah, all those other document types get converted into HTML. Any real evidence that advanced schemas are anything more than a place to stuff keywords? Yeah, with schema, I triage the schema. So anything that has a physical presentation in search results, top of my list. So rating, stars, pricing, availability, anything that Google will present and format in the search results, man, Google's using it. Like, you should not be stupid and neglect that stuff. My second level is anything regarding sharing the page. So all your Twitter cards, open graphs, anything that allows your page to be presented well when people mention it in Skype or on Facebook. You would be crazy to not present well for your viral events. Otherwise, you're just squashing your own natural viral events for your content. So that stuff, no brainer. The third tier is anything about accountability and trust. So your address, your hours, who you are, taking credit for your content, all of that stuff. It may not shoot you to the top, but that Google has placeholders in all of its documentation for that type of information. You might as well have it in there. And at the lowest level of my schema triaging is all the speculative SEO stuff. Well, what if I put entity IDs in my same as stuff? The reason that stuff is at the bottom, it may work, may come in and out of style. It's really hard to justify to a client. Like all the other higher tiers, like you can defend why you charge the client money to do those things. The speculative SEO one is a bit more tricky. Not saying it doesn't work. It's just not the top tier for why I do schema. What do you think, Clint?
I think you're wrong in there, but think about it this way. You do all that work to put entities in your content and optimize, and you're using Surfer and Phrase and Inlinks and Cora and ClearScope and all those tools, and you're giving it all to Google, and you're going, Google can read, so you don't put all that stuff relative to your content in your schema. And now you're forcing Google to build associations on its own when you can add that stuff and associate it with the given Freebase, Wikidata, Wikipedia, machine IDs that Google already knows and has created with those particular words. And then you put it all in the head. So you're telling Google right off the bat what that page is about and what it's covering. So if you believe in entities and then you're not doing about and mention schema and adding the same as to the machine ID URLs, then you're just kind of doing half of the work, in my opinion. And then Tanya, she watches my show and then comes over here and asks questions about shit I talk about to validate, I guess, with you guys. So it's cool watching her do it because she does it the other way around too. But I would say that we have all the testing. We are really real world building it for clients. Everyone has their level of tolerance for what advanced schema is based off of how much work they want to do. And if you're writing the schema that I write for pages across your website without an automation tool, you're probably a sadist because it's a little bit unnecessary. It's one more level to put onto the pancake when you're trying to get the top three before you go to backlinks, in my opinion. Unless, again, you have someone who can automate it. So, or at least automate most of it.
And
so
I agree with Clint on all of that. Just keep in mind that I've been practicing minimum viable SEO, which is bad SEO at the top. So,
I mean, that's another, I wrote that down. Minimum viable SEO. I think it's a good topic. Is it bad SEO? And I don't think so. I think minimum viable SEO is learning enough SEO that like my minimum viable SEO, write out content, put it in Phrase, put it in ClearScope, put it in Inlinks, optimize it, clean it up with Grammarly, and post it. And I'm done. I run a Cora report on that, and I've hit 200, 300, 400 factors just writing it the way that I write it. So that's minimum viable SEO. And I can guarantee you it's not crap SEO.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't like.
You focus more on the viable than on the minimum.
Well, that's totally minimum. If I just get a content written and I do that little bit of optimization piece, I mean, Human Writer right now writes those that are completely optimized. All I got to do is go to all three of those tools, pick out the primary key words that I want, and put it in a Human Writer. Human Writer puts it in there, and then I get 100% optimized content from Phrase, ClearScope, and Inlinks. So it is minimal viable SEO.
Yeah,
I wouldn't dismiss it by saying that it's
I'm not, and I honestly believe that everybody needs to maintain their own model of minimum viable SEO. Yeah. Like my minimum viable SEO would never be the same as Clint's, and Clint's would never be the same as Lee's, and yours won't be the same as ours. And so you got to manage your own model of what that is and what works for you. All right. We have Lee here. How's the road trip going, Lee?
We may discover as I'm driving here that I fade in and out because, Arizona's Arizona.
Right on. He's on his way to SEO spring training. If you are planning on buying a ticket, you might be a little late on that. All right, let's see. I recall some testing you did some time ago that Google always reads really long titles. Well, I can't say they always do. We ran one test and they did. So the always part of that is inconclusive. Even if they still don't show them, still true. Yeah, it's still true because the ellipsis exists in search. So Google is reading beyond what they display. So as long as the ellipsis is real, you know that longer titles to some amount are still a thing. But
As
yeah,
long as they're useful. I just changed the website that had long titles in it and they were just trash. There was no point to it. It's like someone went in there and wrote a couple sentences because they thought it was cool. And look how long my title is, but there was no keyword application. There's absolutely no thought put out into it. So it changed the short titles and all the rankings went up. So don't go in there and go, I just write long titles for the sake of writing long titles. Make it stupid relevant. It's your primary
Same would be true of
optimization point.
what was that, Lee?
I said the same thing would be true of long content. You don't do 10, 20,000 words just to hit a word count.
Yeah. Word count is usually the factor I skip. Let's see, what would be an effective way to put in author schema?
That you've said before that you optimize for word count. So now all of a sudden you're skipping it.
Well, it's the thing that I'm most likely to say I'm not doing that. Because you get in and there's always some clown that's upping it by 7,000. And I know from tests that I can do a higher density at 2,000 and beat them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times when you amplify your word count, you're just increasing the amount of other tuning work you need to then do in that word count to maintain your densities of things. And do you really want to explode that work? And, especially when you start looking at minimum viable, the answer is often no, I don't want to explode that work. I'd rather compete a different way if there's a different way that can do the trick. And going higher density with a lower word count is one way of competing with skyscrapers. And we've seen that work time and time again. All right, so what would be an effective way to put in author schema across my websites? Well, you can create a plugin or you can hire a developer to custom add that feature into
Header, footer, control manager.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, to cut and paste. Do you recommend any good digital PR services? The three I use are Press Advantage, Magic PR, and 38 Digital Marketing. So I'm sure there are many more that are perfectly fine and do the trick. I just haven't had much need to need more than three. And so, there's a lot of good ones. You just have to test them out before you send them to clients. Once you get to the top, then often you are spending time finding out who is trying to take you down, depending on niche. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that negative SEO is a real thing, and it doesn't always mean spammy links. And the people who usually deny negative SEO's existence are people running websites that are unlikely to be targeted by it. So if you're an online retailer, you're a much more likely to be a target of that type of thing because there's real money involved. And so I would typically see negative SEO like testing happening building up to Q4 and Black Friday. And then usually the big negative SEO plan would happen, a month to 2 weeks before Black Friday and hit us hard. So if you're in the right industry and you're selling popular competitive things, then you're probably more likely to see this happening. And usually the best detector for these types of sophisticated negative SEO, keep an eye on the network administrator when he's having a bad day and frustrated. Line that up with your organic revenue chart and see if they don't coincide. That's probably the easiest way to detect a program. There are other ways of finding SEOs. And so looking at the keyword density of the top 100 results is another way to find the aggressive SEOs in your space. So they kind of narc themselves. If you find that your Cora roadmap goes all green, then you're probably looking at aggressive SEOs, probably even other Cora users. Definitely recommend that you reach out if you suspect you're up against other Cora users and just make a co-marketing agreement instead of running an arms race. You'll both be better off instead of just driving up the numbers on each other. You saw it earlier in this episode. We looked at the keyword games, and that one website was pushed up to 3,000. That was the arms race. They didn't want to use their keyword 3,000 times. They had to because of the arms race. And so you can make co-marketing agreements that avoid that nonsense if you can detect it and find those SEOs. What do you think, Clint?
No, I'm with you.
All right. The other thing about negative SEO is that if you leave a message in your source code, people looking to do nefarious things to you will often see that message. So you can talk directly to them by putting comments in your HTML source. Break something they're trying to automate and leave a message right next to it. So if you want to make the heartfelt plea to get them to stop, that's how you do that tactic. Let's see, NLP Cloud or Eden will analyze semantics. So a couple tools out there. PyTorch is good. Hey, any resources, courses on how to build 25 automatic referring domains? This topic has been a hot topic this month. It keeps coming up. No, I always had to do it myself. And I like to find ways where it wouldn't need ongoing management. So I was always a big fan of using the Merchant Center product feeds. And so if you build your microsites off of a feed like that, then whoever's doing the product loading into Merchant Center is managing all your microsites content. So that's a clever way of getting rid of the need to go back and update it. What do you think, Clint? Have you been talking about this?
Yeah. I'm going to build a course when I redo the Cora SEO course that talks about some of that, like some ideas on how to skin that cat. But as I said time and time again, and as Ted just illustrated, it's not something that you want to, go take this course and do what the other 500 monkeys are doing. You want to figure out 25, 50 places that you can consistently get backlinks and build your referring domains on your own, and then keep your mouth shut. So I would challenge you to, you can start off with something like Semantic Mastery's IFTTT rings, just go buy some with Fiverr or legit, or you can do PBNs, or you can go all techie like Ted did, but just go make 25 referring domains and use those to link to your content. And then when you figure out the way that's working for you, keep your mouth shut. Don't give it to anybody. That's your link building method. That's kind of how I'd end that.
Let's see. Do you know a good, reliable PBN hosting company? I think to get that kind of intel, you need to join a group like SEO Intel. And then within the safe space of that group, they would probably share the resources that work. But I'd be reluctant to out anyone publicly. What do you think, Clint?
We've recommended before pbn.hosting. That's the name of it, pbn.hosting. But any host company will host a website for you, and you can call that your PBN. So, what's your budget? How much of a pain in the ass do you want to be for management? How much you want to pay per site? That will dictate service you use, I would think.
Yeah, but I'd still recommend getting into one of the SEO groups that has some expertise in this matter, because they can probably save you a lot of time and headache and reinventing the wheel. So depending upon what you're looking to build out, you could put in hundreds of hours on that, and maybe you can bypass all of that just by subscribing to somebody else's service. So, it might pay to actually get into a group and ask some questions. Let's see. Blank keeping it real. Yeah, that's why we love them. Is there a keyword density you typically try to aim for? Yeah, 1% more than the people ranking on page one. Maybe not the highest one on page one, but at least be competitive for page one. And it will change from keyword to keyword. And the crazy thing about keyword density is as you get to about like 12, 13% density, you start breaking the rules of grammar. And so what we find is the content that goes much higher than that tends to be list style articles that repeat the keywords a lot. And the highest keyword density page I've ever seen in the SERPs, ranking for a real keyword with real search volume, was a LinkedIn page that had a long list of criminal defense attorneys, and with every item on the list, they repeated the job title, criminal defense attorney, and they got their density to get to be 64% on page one in Google. And in our testing and in the field, we've seen no upper limit of what is possible, but there is some strategy to being able to get it to work. And so if you find yourself having to do high density competition, switch your strategy from, keyword stuffing an article to having a very dense list. Any thoughts, Clint?
Yep, I'm with you.
All right. Source code smack talking. Awesome. I don't know. I'm lost on that one, but glad you like it. We use crypto hosting to stay 100% anonymous. So another suggestion there. How are you guys using AI for link building? I'm not currently. I haven't even explored that yet. I'm still finding clever ways to use AI for supplemental content, and I've been down that path for a bit now. Have you tried it for link building, Clint?
Yeah, I mean, you need content, right? So you can use a article scraper, or you can use AI. It doesn't make no difference whatsoever. So whatever is easiest for you.
All right, there you go. And I think that's our whole list. So thank you, everyone. We will not have a show next week because I will be flying back from the conference. But the week after, we'll be back at our normal time.